The 1960s saw an explosion of television series that explored historical and military themes, but few were as impactful and enduring as Combat. Premiering in 1962 and running for 5 seasons until 1967, Combat was a groundbreaking World War II series that offered an intense, realistic depiction of an American infantry squad's experiences in France following the D-Day invasion. Created by Robert Peroche, a veteran screenwriter who had previously worked on the war film Battleground 1949. The show set itself apart with its dramatic storytelling, deep character development, and gritty portrayal of war. This essay explores Combat in detail, covering its historical significance, themes, major characters, storytelling techniques, realism, and cultural impact. The series remains a hallmark of military television, influencing future war dramas while capturing the imaginations of audiences decades after its original broadcast. Combat was conceived during a time when World War II was still a recent memory for many Americans. Veterans of the war, including its creator Robert Peroche, had first-hand experience of battle, which influenced the show's commitment to authenticity. Set in the European theater, primarily in France following the Normandy landings, Combat follows the fictional King Company, a rifle squad tasked with dangerous missions, sometimes behind enemy lines. Unlike many earlier war dramas that portrayed soldiers as invincible heroes, Combat presented them as fallible, multi-dimensional individuals facing real dangers and moral dilemmas. The show balanced action with deep storytelling, highlighting the humanity of soldiers and the emotional weight of combat. A major reason for the show's success was its well-drawn characters, each bringing unique qualities and perspectives to the battlefield. Sergeant Chip Saunders, Vic Morrow, was the heart and soul of Combat. Saunders, a tough but compassionate squad leader and veteran soldier, carried the burden of command and was often seen struggling with the weight of sending men into battle. Vic Morrow's intense performance brought a level of realism rarely seen in television at the time. Lieutenant Gil Hanley, Rick Jason, the officer in charge of the unit, Hanley provided a contrast to Saunders, more by the book but still caring. Hanley was often caught between following orders and protecting his men. Doc Stephen Rogers, the medic, representing the often overlooked role of battlefield medical personnel, his character added a humanitarian element to the show. Kirby Jack Hogan, Cage Pierre Jalbert, and Little John Dick Peabody were the supporting characters, with each having a distinct personality. Kirby as the brash fighter, Cage as the French-speaking scout, and Little John as the reliable, strong soldier. Each character faced their own struggles and dilemmas, creating a well-rounded narrative that allowed audiences to connect deeply with them. Unlike many war shows of the time, Combat emphasized realism. Filmed in black and white for most of its run with some color episodes in the final season, the series had a gritty, documentary-like quality. Battle sequences were choreographed with precision, and the sound design made the gunfire and explosions feel immersive. The show also avoided simplistic storytelling. Episodes often explored moral ambiguity, with characters facing difficult choices that lacked clear right or wrong answers. Soldiers had to deal with fear, exhaustion, and the psychological effects of war, making Combat a forerunner of later war dramas like Band of Brothers. Several recurring themes defined Combat that set it apart from other war series. The cost of war. The show never glorified combat, it depicted the physical and emotional toll on soldiers. Brotherhood and camaraderie. Despite their hardships, the men relied on each other, emphasizing the bonds formed in wartime. Moral dilemmas. Many episodes presented ethical conflicts, such as whether to spare an enemy soldier or question the morality of following orders blindly. Leadership and responsibility. Both Saunders and Hanley struggled with the burden of command, knowing their decisions could mean life or death for their men. Combat resonated with audiences partly because many viewers had served in World War II or had family members who had. Veterans appreciated the show's effort to portray combat realistically, while younger viewers were introduced to a more nuanced version of war than Hollywood often depicted. The show also influenced later military television and films. Its realistic approach to combat and character-driven storytelling can be seen in series like Tour of Duty 1987 to 1990 and Band of Brothers 2001. Directors such as Steven Spielberg and Tom Hanks, who were instrumental in making Saving Private Ryan and Band of Brothers, have cited shows like Combat as an influence. Combat ended in 1967 after 5 seasons. The final episodes, shot in color, lost some of the show's stark visual appeal but still maintained its strong storytelling. The cancellation was partly due to shifting television trends and the rise of the Vietnam War, which changed how audiences perceived military dramas. Despite its conclusion, Combat has remained a beloved series, with reruns keeping its legacy alive. Fans still discuss episodes, and the show has gained new appreciation with the release of DVD collections and online streaming. Combat remains one of the most significant war dramas in television history. By focusing on the human side of war, developing complex characters, and maintaining a commitment to realism, the show set a high standard for military storytelling. Its influence can be seen in later war films and series, proving that its impact extends far beyond its original 1960s audience. Whether through its compelling narratives or unforgettable performances, Combat continues to be a defining example of World War II television drama. After Combat ended in 1967, Vic Morrow continued his acting career in both television and film. However, he struggled at times to escape the shadow of his iconic role as Sergeant Saunders. Morrow took on various roles in TV shows like The FBI, Hawaii Five-0, and Cades County. He also appeared in movies such as Dirty Mary, Crazy Larry 1974, and The Bad News Bears 1976, where he played a tough Little League coach. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, he began directing and took on character roles in films. Despite his talent, he never fully regained the same level of stardom he had with Combat. Vic Morrow tragically died on July 23, 1982, while filming Twilight Zone, the movie. He was filming a segment directed by John Landis, in which his character was carrying two Vietnamese children through a war zone. During a stunt sequence, a helicopter flying overhead lost control due to special effects explosions and crashed, killing Morrow and the two children, Micah Dinla 7 and Renee Shinyi Chen 6. The accident led to a highly publicized trial and changes in Hollywood safety regulations. Although no one was convicted of manslaughter, the tragedy remains one of the most infamous accidents in film history. Despite his untimely death, Morrow remains beloved by fans of Combat and is remembered as a dedicated actor who brought realism and intensity to his roles. His portrayal of Sergeant Saunders continues to be a defining performance in war television history. Rick Jason also continued acting after Combat, appearing in various television shows and films. Some of his notable post-combat roles included guest appearances on Hawaii Five-0, Mission Impossible, Barnaby Jones, and the Hardy Boys' Nancy Drew Mysteries. However, he never quite recaptured the same level of fame he had during his time as Lieutenant Hanley. In his later years, Jason remained involved in Combat fan events and even wrote an autobiography titled Scrapbooks of My Mind, a Hollywood autobiography, in which he reflected on his career, including his time on the War series. Tragically, Rick Jason passed away on October 16, 2000, from a self-inflicted gunshot wound at the age of 77. His death came just days after attending a Combat reunion event with fellow cast members. His legacy, particularly as Lieutenant Hanley, remains cherished by fans of the show.